If you're looking for an awesome product at a great price, be sure to check out the link in the description. The Home Office has revealed details of the selection process for migrants seeking entry to the UK from France under the one-in, one-out return scheme. According to a recently released document, the government anticipates accepting approximately 50 migrants per week when the program commences, indicating a highly selective application process. Potential applicants will be evaluated through a three-stage procedure. Initially, candidates must originate from a group with an 80% or higher probability of being granted protection status. Based on asylum claim data for the year ending March 2025, this criterion would likely encompass individuals from Sudan, Yemen, Syria, or Eritrea. Following this, applicants must demonstrate a connection to the UK, defined as having resided in the country legally for over 6 continuous months within the last 5 years, without overstaying their permission or violating any conditions. Finally, those who successfully navigate the first 2 stages will be entered into a random selection process. In other developments, the Bank of England has announced its 5th interest rate cut in a year, citing concerns over the UK's economic performance and warning of potential inflation fueled by rising food prices, which could reach 4%. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer has acknowledged the initial detentions of small boat migrants under the one-in, one-out scheme. Simultaneously, the Home Office has launched a website for potential applicants in France. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has hinted at considering tax increases on the gambling sector to finance the elimination of the two-child benefit cap, an idea advocated by former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, who has also urged Reeves to create budgetary flexibility by excluding certain defense spending from fiscal rules. Amnesty International has voiced concerns regarding the Metropolitan Police's potential actions against participants in a Saturday protest in London supporting Palestine Action, as the first charges have been filed against individuals demonstrating support for the banned group. Additional key events unfolding include the Liberal Democrats' call for ministers to block the application for a Chinese super embassy in London, citing security risks, and the Treasury's announcement of £143 million in funding to secure over 130 disused coal tips in Wales. Furthermore, Rachel Reeves has commented on the interest rate cuts, highlighting the stability Labour has brought to the economy. The Conservative Party has called for the resignation of Homelessness Minister Rushanara Ali, alleging hypocrisy regarding a rent hike on a property she owns, following tenant evictions. J.D. Vance is reportedly beginning a family holiday in the UK, staying with Foreign Secretary David Lammy at Chevening. The Conservatives are also advocating for automatic disqualification of asylum seekers caught working illegally. The Department for Education has reported improvements in school absence figures, although rates remain higher than pre-COVID levels. The Green Party has endorsed Gordon Brown's proposal for gambling taxes to fund the abolition of the two-child benefit cap. These developments collectively paint a complex picture of the current political and economic landscape. The one-in, one-out scheme has also drawn criticism. The Conservative Party has stated that the scheme is a gimmick and criticized its numerous loopholes and potential for legal challenges. The Shadow Home Secretary has argued that the agreement will not effectively deter illegal immigration. The Home Office has launched a website inviting people who are in France and who want to come to the UK to apply for asylum to apply for entry under the one-in, one-out scheme. The details are here. YouGov has released some polling about how the public view Keir Starmer, Nigel Farage, and Jeremy Corbyn. Starmer may be moderately pleased about the fact that he beats the other two quite easily on who represents the UK on the world stage. But the most damaging figure in the chart is the one saying only 18% of people think Starmer represents change, while 71% think he doesn't. Given that change was the title of Labour's manifesto at the election, and every government press release contains a compulsory reference to its plan for change, the fact that people don't see the PM in these terms is a serious problem. In his cover story for The Spectator this week, mostly about reform, Tim Shipman, the magazine's political editor, says Starmer knows this is a problem. He writes, "The Prime Minister has been at Chequers this week summoning aides for crunch discussions. Senior figures say Starmer has been warned he has just 6 months to turn things around or be timed out. Speechwriter Alan Lockie and head of strategy Paul Ovenden are working on a party conference speech which will warn voters there has to be profound change to the way we do things, but also spell out a more optimistic vision of what Britain looks like if Labour gets it right. He will pitch the government as the friend of those who work hard and earn their money. Insiders say Starmer is furious about the lack of progress on deregulation and building. Expect a new planning bill to combat that. The PM also wants the autumn budget to be bold rather than simply plug gaps in the government's spending plans. He met Rachel Reeves last week. His argument against reform will be that he is plotting a revolution for the quiet majority, while a vote for Farage means decline and grievance. Ministers have asked China to send them the unredacted designs for its proposed super embassy in London or justify why some of the drawings have been blacked out, Eleni Korea reports. The Liberal Democrats are urging the government to block the application for the super embassy. Luke Taylor, the party's spokesperson for London, said, "It looks like the government is finally kowtowing on to the grave threat this embassy poses. But rather than dithering, it needs to take the bull by the horns and finally block China's application." It is staggering that only now, at the 11th hour, the government is finally asking fundamental questions about what Beijing is planning. This is despite the huge and obvious security risks the embassy poses to our city and our nation. Anything less than an unequivocal rejection of this application would send a dreadful message to Hong Kongers in the UK, who already face a campaign of transnational repression directed by President Xi. The Welsh government has lobbying Westminster for years for money to help it deal with the problem posed by disused coal tips in the country. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is in South Wales today to publicise Treasury funding that will address the problem, although some council leaders claim the sum allocated only scratches the surface. Disused coal tips remain a legacy of Wales' coal industry, and present severe risks for Welsh communities from landslides or flooding. Just last November, a disused coal tip in Cwmtillery, Blaenau Gwent, partially collapsed, forcing around 40 homes and families to be evacuated. The £118 million provided at the spending review by the Chancellor to protect Welsh communities comes in addition to £25 million from last year's autumn budget, amounting to £143 million to deliver the essential funding to protect existing homes whilst enabling new areas of land to be secured for future house building by the Welsh Government. When combined with funding from the Welsh Government, £220 million has now been invested to make coal tips in Wales safe. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has also welcomed today's interest rate cut. She told broadcasters, "I welcome the fact that interest rates have come down today. That's good news for homeowners, good news for businesses. Interest rates have now come down 5 times since Labour came into office, in part because of the stability that we've managed to return to the economy after the chopping and changing, the mini-budget under the Conservatives and Liz Truss. What that means, that fifth cut in interest rates, is that if you're taking out a mortgage for £215,000, you're going to be paying on a variable rate around £140 less a month than when we came to office just over a year ago. So, this is good news for people wanting to get on the housing ladder, people remortgaging and also businesses borrowing to grow." Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has suggested that she is open to the idea of raising taxes on the gambling sector to fund the removal of the 2-child benefit cap. The idea is being strongly promoted by Gordon Brown, the former Labour PM who also spent 10 years as Chancellor. He has been making this case today, in an interview on the Today programme and with an article in The Guardian. Asked on a visit in Port Talbot if she was considering Brown's plan, Reeves said, "I talk to Gordon regularly, and saw him last week when I was in Scotland. Like Gordon, I am deeply concerned around the levels of child poverty in Britain. No child should grow up hungry or parents not be able to afford the basics for their family. We're a Labour government. Of course, we care about child poverty. That's why one of the first things we did as a government was to set up a child poverty task force that will be reporting in the autumn and will respond to it then. On gambling taxes, we've already launched a review into gambling taxes. We're taking evidence on that at the moment, and again, we'll set out our policies in the normal way, in our budget later this year." Reeves was speaking during a visit to a coal tip, where she was promoting an announcement about £143 million being spent securing coal tips in Wales. The Conservative Party is now calling for the resignation of Rushanara Ali, the homelessness minister, after she told tenants in a house she owns they would have to move, and then increased the rent by £700 a month when it was relet after they had moved out. Ali says she wanted to sell the house, and only relist it for rental when she could not find a buyer, but she has been accused of hypocrisy because the government is legislating to stop landlords who evict tenants on the grounds they want to sell from then swiftly reletting. In a post on social media, Kevin Hollenrack, the Tory chair, said, "This is staggering hypocrisy from Rushanara Ali. It is totally unacceptable for the government minister in charge of Labour's new renters laws and homelessness to have turfed out her own tenants in order to hike the rent by over 20%. I'm sorry, but she must resign." A spokesperson for Ali said, Rushanara takes her responsibilities seriously and complied with all relevant legal requirements. J.D. Vance, the U.S. Vice President, will start his summer holiday in the UK by staying with David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, at Chevening, Lammy's Grace-and-Favour country home, The Telegraph reports. The Conservatives are setting out new proposals that would mean asylum seeker caught illegally working should have their claim rejected automatically and face immediate deportation, either to their country of origin or to a safe third country. The scale of this failure was laid bare when Chris Philp MP, the Shadow Home Secretary, exposed this issue after a visit to a taxpayer-funded asylum hotel in June and found it operating as a delivery hub. Illegal working was taking place in plain sight, security guards did nothing, and the platforms continued to profit from this racket despite previous Home Office agreements. The Bank of England has cut interest rates for a fifth time in a year amid mounting concern about the strength of the economy, Richard Partington reports. The bank's Monetary Policy Committee voted by a majority to reduce its key base rate from 4.25% to 4%. Keir Starmer's promise last year to smash the gangs has turned out to be nothing more than a gimmick that didn't work, and this is just the same. They are detaining a token handful of arrivals, and in return we accept unvetted migrants from France. The whole thing is riddled with loopholes, opt-outs and legal escape routes that will make removals near impossible. One clause exempts anyone with a claim certified as clearly unfounded pending court proceedings, creating a field day for human rights lawyers. Anyone claiming to be under 18 or making a modern slavery claim gets to avoid the scheme too. 94% of illegal arrivals will still remain in the UK under this deal. How exactly is that supposed to deter anyone? School attendance in England continued to slowly improve last year, according to new data published this morning by the Department for Education, which claimed it was a dramatic improvement. The figures for the autumn term of 2024-25 showed that absence rates in state secondary schools fell by half a percentage point to 7% compared with the year before, while primaries also showed a slight improvement to 5%. Persistent absences, the proportion of pupils who missed 10% or more of time in the classroom, also fell, from 19.5% in 2023 to 24 to 17.8% in 2024 to 25, and well below the 24% rates seen around 2022. However, all the indicators remain above the rates of absence seen before the COVID pandemic, while severe absence, pupils missing 50% or more, rose slightly to 2%, and remains at record levels, as do absences caused by unauthorized family holidays.